Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Shooting the Shit with Yankee. As always, I'm Yankee, so let's start shooting. Today I've got a question for you about preparedness. Where do you think the line is between being prepared and being paranoid? Are there some things you see people do as far as carry and being prepared for bad situations that kind of crosses into the crazy territory? And you're like, that's a little bit nutty. Maybe you should seek some help. Or are you someone that thinks you can never be too prepared? Are you someone who has ruined relationships over carry or being prepared? You know, I want to hear your stories. I want to know what you think. Where's that line between prepared and paranoid? Let me know. I'm going to say I'm not someone who tells other people how to live their life. You do whatever makes you happy. However, if the things you do that makes you happy prevents you from living a normal life, I mean, you just can't function in your daily life because you're wearing body armor and you're loaded down with 5 guns and 30 magazines, and it makes it too hard for you to walk around, so you can't go very far, and you're just not able to live a normal life. Well, that's probably paranoid. If you're losing relationships, if you can't be in a relationship because no one else will tolerate your behavior, well, you might be leaning towards mental illness there. Because first and foremost, the reason you should be prepared is so that you can live your life healthily and happily. And if your act of being prepared is preventing that from happening, well, then that's probably mental illness because you're not achieving your goal, not even coming close to achieving your goal, because you're sacrificing the thing you're supposed to be protecting by trying to protect it. So that's when I think it crosses into the land of paranoia and mental illness, when it prevents you from living a normal life, when it prevents you from having healthy relationships, when it prevents you from just being an everyday guy. Then you've probably gone too far and you might want to seek some help. Now, you might be a special circumstance where, they're actively out to get me. I've made some powerful enemies and I got to be prepared at all times. But here's the thing. If that's the case, if there's people out there determined to hurt you and you want to live a normal life, you're not going to be able to. They're going to get you. That's just the reality of it. So try not to make powerful enemies, because no matter how good I am, no matter how much preparing I do, if I still live a normal life, one determined individual that has decided that I have to go and they're willing to go with me, I'm probably done for. If they have an ounce of, capability to them, if they're at all capable. So like I said, just live your life, be happy, do what you want to do. But if you go to that point where you can't live your life, you can't keep relationships, you can't accept you probably need some mental health care. With that being said, let me move on here, see what everybody else has got to say. Sean Bain says, when you're looking for the doggy man everywhere, who's the doggy man? Now I have something else to worry about. I didn't know there was a doggy man. Oh, shit. Now I got something else I need to be prepared for, something to worry about. Dale Rickety, the line is when you start covering yourself with aluminum foil. You are toast at that time. Yeah, the tinfoil hat crowd. But you know what? Even they're right sometimes. You can't always say that, it's like conspiracy theorists. You can't say, there's someone you can't pay attention to. They're a conspiracy theorist. Well, maybe this is the one thing they're right about. Because I can't believe anybody that knows how corrupt our government and stuff is doesn't believe in some conspiracies. Although some of them I don't think are actually conspiracies. I think they're just open, illegal activity, open corruption, and people have just been conditioned to not care. So I don't know if there is so much as conspiracy theory as it just is, there's a lot of bad shit. Gummy Wuzzle said, when EDC is more important in relationships. That's kind of what I said earlier. Now, it can go both ways, though. If you're in a relationship with someone who you carry your little Smith & Wesson revolver on your hip all the time. You don't got kids around, you're just in a relationship, you're dating someone, and they're like, I can't date you if you're carrying that. Well, then you're probably not with the right person. And you should probably find someone else, because they can't accept your basic level of preparedness. And you don't want to have to comply with their lollipops and rainbows view of life. So you're probably not looking at the right person there. But if you get to where you can't maintain any relationships because of what you do, well, then yeah, that's probably mental illness. Or you're just maybe ugly and boring. Maybe you're just ugly and boring. Not saying Gummy Wuzzle's ugly and boring. I don't think I need to say that. Edgar Cortez said, I don't think he's boring. Edgar Cortez said, basically, our country is safe. Paranoia is a psychiatric trait best assessed by a psychiatric interview. It's how they are thinking and behaving that makes them paranoid. Exactly. And if you think everyone's out to get you and they're not, well, that's paranoia. If you're thinking everybody's out to get you and they are, well, then that's preparedness. So it really is going to depend on your circumstances and how far you take things. But there's a general level of risk in life, and that you can actually be prepared for without sacrificing your existence, a normal existence. And once you go beyond that, like I said, I think that's where we can start realizing that you maybe need some help. Danny Pinnet. See, I told you he's not dancing on tables in Mexico. Well, they might have Wi-Fi there. Live in a world of likelihoods and do the math. Well, people are bad at math, though. You don't ask people to do math. Most people are bad at it. People can't even give change most of the time, much less figure out the risk assessments. It's like people who say, I ain't wearing no seatbelt. If I roll a car over, I could be trapped in the car, trapped in a burning car. Well, you're obviously really, really bad at math. Because your chances of dying in an accident without a seatbelt on is 1,000 times greater than that ever happening. So you're not able to accurately assess risk. Heavy J said, joining a militia or writing a manifesto, maybe. Well, I can't say either of those things actually would make me, check the paranoid box on someone's evaluation. I'm sure there's lots of people in militias that aren't paranoid at all. They're just racist. Because unfortunately, that's been my experience with most militias. My own personal experience with militias I've tried to be involved with and try to make, like, hey, let's work to make a positive, example of militias and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, you don't like black people, Hispanics, gays. You can't do that then. Just unfortunately, that's what it seems to have been taken over by. And hell, everybody should write a manifesto. I write one every time anybody pisses me off. I'd like, I am so mad that the UPS man did not leave my package simply because I wasn't home. If this happens again, I might just go crazy. Important stuff. Mark Lax chimed in here and says the line varies on the person and current events. Well, it depends on their circumstances. I mean, like if you live in cartel country in Mexico, of course, you're going to take different level of preparedness than people who live in, San Diego, California. It's different circumstances. So different levels of preparedness. So circumstance does matter. Mark Lopez, his kisses taste like tacos. Paranoid equals constant fear-mongering mindset. Well, yeah, people who are paranoid do that. But here's the thing. Most people who do that aren't paranoid. They're profiting. People who preach that constantly online, they're doing that to profit. They're doing that because they know they can appeal to weaker-minded individuals who are more easily parted with their money. That's why I have a hard time in here. You people need to be dumber so I can separate you from your money more. I always wish I'd been one of them people. I just wish I had just a little bit less credibility. Not credibility, but self-respect so that I could steal like old people's pensions and religious old people's money and stuff like that, because you get so rich doing that, lying to them and taking their money. I just wish I had less self-respect. I'd love to be fear-mongering and taking people's money. I just couldn't live with myself. Mr. Furley, plus it's a lot of work. You have to maintain that, and you have to remember what you have to pretend to believe, it's a lot of work. I could never keep it straight. Mr. Furley said when prepping evolves into irrational hoarding. Well, I don't know what irrational hoarding is, but hell, hoarding in general is usually not good unless you're hoarding things that could be useful, and then there's not that bad. Like hoarding ammunition, I don't want to see a problem with that. Unless you're like hoarding it for monetary gain, then I got a problem with that. But just if you just want to have all the ammo, well, that's fine. Never enough ammo. John M Mannrich says, "Do you have any credible evidence? If so, it's not paranoid." Oh, if you have credible evidence that you're at risk, well, yes. It's like if you have credible evidence to some conspiracy. Well, then it's not a conspiracy. If you've got credible evidence, it's not a theory. You can prove it. I'm saying it's not a conspiracy theory. I can prove a conspiracy. Here's the evidence. Ghost Shadow says, "Is it paranoid if you've already been shot twice?" Well, I've been shot twice. Well, once by myself. I don't know if that counts. I ain't paranoid. I ain't afraid. I don't take any unnecessary preparations. I'm prepared against Bigfoots and zombies and, things like that, just common sense threats. Although I think Bigfoot's really on our side. So my only fear about Bigfoot, though, is that he will accidentally break some of my shit going through my yard. I don't want him going through my yard. I got stuff that's breakable. I got cars. He could scratch a car, dent one of my cars. He could tear our greenhouse down to get the strawberries out of it or something. I don't want him doing that. So I put out Bigfoot deterrents. Keep them off all your shit. They'll eat all your watermelons, everything. There was a lady in Oregon that was talking about how one of the worst things about where she lived is Bigfoots eat all of her watermelons she grows. She never gets to eat any of her watermelons every year because she goes out and they're always smashed and eaten because the Bigfoots eat them. And she's caught them doing it multiple times, but she just can't get them to stop. I don't want to be that person. Coral says, when your general preparedness becomes specific. Well, so preparing for zombies is paranoid? Because I do specifically, I got a zombie poking stick. I got a Warhammer right here. What about werewolves? I've got a stick with a sharpened butter knife on the end of it that's silver for werewolves. Is that paranoid? I don't think so. I think that's good thinking. Pocket Sand said, since I came back from Iraq, I am generally uncomfortable, unarmed. It causes me a significant but manageable amount of stress. Crowds make it worse. I don't like crowds either. But it isn't because I saw combat in Iraq or anything. I was always, well, there's no such thing as enemy lines anymore, especially not like in Iraq or the Middle East. You're in a combat zone wherever you go. But it's just, I don't like crowds. I don't like people. But that's understandable. And I am uncertain when I'm not armed either. I feel that uneasiness. There have been times where I've like jumped in my car and I'm just in like gym shorts and a t-shirt and I'm just running down to the little store down here and I've just grabbed my wallet. But I'm like, I've got a gun right here in my car with me. So if anything happens on the way there or the way back, I got a gun. I just don't have one when I walk in the store. I guess I could pick it up, carry it in the store. I want these Tic Tacs. And I'm paying for them. Don't worry. I'm just protecting myself. In case you're up to no good. Flabby Atheist Prepper says, if you're prepped for the zombie apocalypse but can't walk up a flight of stairs without sounding like a bust steam engine, you're paranoid. Well, I don't know if you're paranoid. You're just bad at it. You're a bad prepper. I don't know if that makes you paranoid necessarily. I say being prepared for zombies, everyone should do it. But being out of shape, well, that just means you're not good at it. You're just not a good prepper. You got your priorities a little fucked up. It's like, should I buy 10,000 more rounds of ammo today or a treadmill? Well, maybe today, since you already got a lot of ammo, maybe you should buy the treadmill. Get your priority. Like I said, do the math. Pigar says, yeah, the mandatory sign signature stuff is the worst. What? The mandatory sign signature stuff is the worst. I don't know what that means. And that's going to end our chat. That and one more comment from him, but I don't know what that means. Because then he said, I know coyotes like watermelons. Someone check on Pigar. I think he might be having a stroke. But that's going to do it for us today. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I appreciate everybody who weighed in. Thank you very much for helping keep the channel going, supporting the channel, keeping the conversation rolling. How about you out there in YouTube land? What do you think? Where's the line between preparedness and paranoid? Let me know in the comment section. And if you want to weigh in on one of these topics in person, come to our live chats. We do them every day at 6 p.m. Hope to see you at one soon. Until then, remember, always carry and stay safe until I see you again.